Hello and welcome to the 127th international episode of the Adoption and Fostering Podcast from Ireland with the award-winning
Scott Cass and Rennie and the award-winning
Al Coates.
Woohoo!
That was swish, wasn't it?
It was.
It was very
And people
swish.
are going, why have they said that?
Oh, well, it's a segue, isn't it?
It is. But we'll come to that in a minute.
I'm sure we will.
Yeah.
So why are we in Ireland?
Well, you're on your holidays.
And you live
and
here.
I live here. So.
Yeah, so I've come over and I brought the Massive, or some of the Massive, and we're having a lovely time over here, and just thought we'd crack on and get to a podcast. The first few minutes of a face-to-face podcast
are always strange,
because
because we can look at each other in the eye, and it's kind of like, okay, we can't just switch off our screen.
I prefer to be like a shamed Labrador, just looking slightly into the corner of the room while you talk to me.
And dear listeners, I was told on the first evening when they appeared that he prefers me to be a virtual friend rather than a face-to-face friend, which, I mean, I didn't take offence to it, but, because I'm made of tougher stuff than that, but, it could have gone one way or the other. But you're here.
I am, yes, very much so.
You've seen some of the sites, not because you're not here for long. Let's face it, you're only here for 4 days.
Yeah, but it felt
that's long enough.
It felt an awful lot longer. I'll be frank. No, we went to the Cliffs of Moher.
Cliffs of Moher.
And it was fantastic because have you ever seen Nuts in May, the Mike Leigh film from the 70s?
No.
Oh well, it's very much man sort of dragging someone around to places that people don't want to be. And there was a bit of that going on, so I took a sullen 16-year-old up a cliff path, and they're going, it's a cliff.
Where's McDonald's?
Yeah, well, literally, she got there. It's like in the middle of the rural North Ireland, rural Ireland. But that was fun, and I took a great deal of pleasure out of.
I'm sure you did.
Well, I mean, we've all probably had that as parents. Our parents have taken us to something that we don't want to go to, and they've been all enthused, and we've poured rain on that.
Yeah, and so literally there was rain poured on you.
My pockets filled up literally with rain in my jacket.
But we have had a good couple of days. We spent a bit of time together.
Yeah.
We went to Kilkee yesterday because you've been staying in Kilrush.
Yeah.
Which is how did you describe Kilrush? Go on.
It felt like a Sunday afternoon in the 70s, and this was a busy Tuesday morning.
But it is lovely. I mean, we're in autumn now, and the weather's not great. As you know, it's intermittently.
It has rained. I don't mind. I like the rain. I'm totally cool with the rain. But I did find it was just really odd. And we went into one of the towns lately, and Paul and the kids went into a chemist's, and I stood outside because that's what dads do. Really. Yeah. And this waft of this smell of the 70s came out, and it was like this sort of like slightly antiseptic, slightly cough sweet, slightly my childhood of my mum going into shops like that. So I found it incredibly affirming and heartwarming. Yeah,
I think the one description you gave me yesterday was when you walked around Kilrush and there was a wool shop, and you said it was like that was kind of in the 1970s.
Yeah. But there's more than one wool shop.
Yeah, and then the clothes shop that had a saw in the window as part of the display. It looked like somebody just chucked a saw on there.
Emptied their toolkit into it. I'm really enjoying it, but the 16-year-old is dying.
Yeah.
Literally.
But the 16-year-old has a 15-year-old to muck about with, and they've not seen each other for a while, and that's been great. It's been really nice for them to actually see each other again. So.
Yeah, and apparently she did a Snapchat and she got 500 views of her next to a cliff.
Exactly. So these kids, they don't know about all these things, until they post something like that and with a miserable face and probably some comment about, oh, I'm really miserable, but actually got 500 views. And
absolutely, and it's like a window into my own childhood. It's like a living history.
Yeah, and if you had social media back then, you'd be looking for them views as well. So,
excellent. So so not to complain.
Anyway. Here we are.
And you've been away, which is great, and I don't particularly care about that.
No, you don't.
No, anyway, so let's
rewind.
So we haven't got anything specific. There's a few things I'd like to touch upon this week. I think the things are pertinent, which is it's been National Adoption Week.
It was.
Which I have to note. Mm-hmm. Oh, and I think we'll talk about that. There's a few things, news items. I adopt a voice in my Earraigh. This is my little news item. I was invited to like, do you want to be part of like an adopt a voice within a regionalised adoption agency? I might as well say it, because what the heck?
Yeah, why not? We know where you live.
The story goes on, you'll know why it doesn't matter if I say it.
Literally.
Yeah, so that's Adopt Northeast. I said, I'm racking my brain, I don't even know the name of my own Earraigh. Adopt one, and I thought, all right, fine. So I sent an email and said, yeah, I'm up for that. And then I got an email back going, no, you didn't get chosen.
Probably did a social media check on you, I would imagine.
Do you think?
Yeah, quite likely.
Yeah.
Now, so let's just rewind a little bit now. You say adoptive voice. Is this like the Adoption UK adoptive voice, or is this their own adoptive voice? Because I think we need to just make sure that we're not slandering adoptive voice from Adoption UK.
Well, that's the thing that's slightly peculiar, isn't it? Because I am sort of part of that at a national level, which is a bit odd, but not at a regional level. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So no, I think it was just that's what they're calling it.
Right. That's interesting.
That must be what they're calling it. Yeah, because I would have been, surely I'd have been pointed towards it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, that's got really messy, hasn't it?
Why invite you if they're going to say no? Was it just a way of going, let's knock this man off his perch a little bit?
Let's teach him a lesson.
Let's invite him and then tell him no.
That seems a reasonable reason to do it.
I mean, I wouldn't want you doing it.
Oh, I mean, on one level, why do you want, I'm...
Like, if I was doing it, I mean, like, if I was the people that are running it, I wouldn't want you there.
The last thing you want me in the corner going, excuse me.
Exactly. Coming up with all these random...
Yeah, so that's fine, but I just thought it was a bit odd to be invited then to be told no.
But I think I said this to you when you told me, do you really need to be doing anything else?
Oh, well,
I mean, come on.
No,
that's like sticking your hand up in class to clear the books and pencils and clean the tables and
pick me. Yeah, so it's fine. Yeah. But it's just interesting. I thought that this feels a little bit arbitrary, and I thought, well, who is on it? Because I'm sure there are people who legitimately should be on, but I just kind of go, well, the minute things become closed, I get really uncomfortable. Like,
yeah, and it's a little bit like the prep course thing, isn't it? Sometimes it can be seen as let's get the happy people in,
or the
positive people, or something like that. So, and sometimes they do need that challenge. Sometimes they do need people who are going to kind of say, "Well, that's fine, and I'm glad you're having a really good time, but
there are other views."
There are other views available.
Yeah,
interesting.
I might dig around a bit deeper. I was tempted to say, why wasn't I chosen? Well, just not. I guess when people don't have anything to lose, I thought, well, why? Just why? And
well, I mean, similarly to
it seems really churlish now.
It does,
doesn't it?
But like I can kind of see where you're coming from, though, because we were asked as part of the adoptive reference group to put our names forward for all these work streams, weren't we? So you do the racial disparity.
I do, yeah.
And I put my name forward to do the adoption support one, and I've never heard back. Never been told no, but never heard back. So it's not the same. I know, but it's like if you're asked to apply, why are you then just either ignored or knocked back? Who knows?
Yeah, and I think that there's a lot of people. I think as adoptive parents, a lot of adoptive parents want to give something back, and I think I don't know whether you've had it, but I've had it. Certainly, people have got in touch with me and said, if there's a way I can help.
Yeah. And
often everyone who contributes comes on at the end of it, they'll often go, if there's anything else you want me to do, please come on. And it's not about money, it's about just genuine desire to see things better.
Exactly. Yeah. Or maybe we're just a little bit sensitive to being knocked back now and again.
It's the first time.
Maybe we're a bit fragile.
No. Well, get you with your pointed words. You know what us white men are like. Straight white middle-aged men, like
I'm not straight. Thank you.
Well, looking in.
I thought you were talking about who was in the room.
Yeah, we're going to have an awkward conversation.
Yes, you do know. Do you remember that wedding you came to? Did you have glasses on that day?
Yeah. I was slightly confused, but there was lots of people wearing dresses and kilts. It's a fine line.
Kilts, interesting.
Interesting. So how did you find National Adoption Week?
Well, from my sunbed with my cocktail on my cruise ship, I dipped in and out. I have to say I did dip in and out, but I did keep watching. I only posted, I think, twice during the whole week in terms of National Adoption Week.
Yeah.
Now, the reason Al and I introduced ourselves as award winning at the beginning is because we both won awards many moons ago. Well, 2016, 2017. No, 2017?
16, 17.
Yeah, 16, 17. So Al won Blog of the Year twice. But we won't go there.
Same blog.
We won't go there. It was so good. One blog.
So good.
And I won Adoption Champion of the Year. Just saying. I might not be an MBE, but I've got that by me. I've still got my little placard. Anyway, and yes, I guess it's through in the dining room. It's not sitting here. I'll stop looking around the room for my award. It's in a special glass cabinet.
Glass cabinet,
with locks and securities. But we were taking the mickey a little bit because obviously that happened within National Adoption Week, and I think we're both very different people now to what we were then. I think we were, it's National Adoption Week. Let's be...
show off glitter.
Yeah, exactly.
Sandwiches.
Yeah. Let's go to this award ceremony. Oh, look, we've been nominated. Oh, fabulous. All that sort of stuff. And I'm not sure I would feel the same way about it now to then. And I think, we've been quite open and honest about the you can adopt thing. National Adoption Week is generally about recruitment.
That's the interesting point for me, is that we look back and there was what were the awards? It was Adoption Agency of the Year, Social Worker of the Year, Adoption Post-Adoption Social Worker of the Year, Adopter, Lifetime Achievement, yada yada yada. It was all focused on.
It was parents and professionals.
Yeah, and now that's gone. And whether that's gone by intention, I guess you might be able to speak with more authority. But my understanding is that the coalition came in, they ploughed a lot of money into First for Adoption, which they set up, which was a link to Quorum. And they put with millions behind that, and then that was the focus, wasn't it? The focus, the recruitment was the sole focus, and it was done through sort of celebrating parents and professionals.
I mean, there was quite a few. Well, actually, back then, if you think about it, the newspapers used to get involved, and they would put on,
Little Johnny and
and they would actually have put in photographs of children.
Could you adopt this child?
Yeah, and all that sort of stuff. There was some taglines like "Too old at 4," so that was to try and get people to come forward to adopt children over the age of 4. There were siblings. There was all that kind of stuff, but there was never anything, about the kind of longer term effect, or what we're all talking about now in terms of supporting families and adults as well. I think that's what's come through. I knew it was going to be a tricky one, and I'm so glad that I was away. I'm so glad that I was away, simply because I just don't want to argue with people. That's not my thing. I don't like arguing.
Well, yeah, but what's odd, I think, though, is that if we go back 5 years ago, there was no voice of adopted people.
No,
there was maybe one or two voices, maybe how to be adopted. People like Amanda Bowman, who was raising the profile, who would do sort of parallel events through the Open Nest.
Right.
All great, but very much on the fringe. And it seems that the voices that have questioned it have come to the centre, but also within the... Because I didn't even look at the video. I know there was a You Can Adopt video, like 5 minute long.
Yep.
I didn't even look. So I went to an event. We'll get to that maybe. But I went to an event, and afterwards someone from there, Mark Owers, said, "Oh, have you seen it?" I went, and he said, "Oh, you're being a bit of a
div." Yeah,
because Mark speaks plainly, and he called me out on that. He said, "Well, you need to watch it before you make any comment."
Yeah.
And I watched it, and I went, of course I could say, "Oh, it should be more like this and more like that," but back to our initial point, compared to 5 years ago,
it's very different.
Wow, hugely different. The diversity of people involved, and it's field more centred around children, perhaps.
Yeah, I think it was the whole family and children, actually, wasn't it? Because you had the voice of a birth parent in there, you had the voice of young people in there, you had the voice of a grandmother in there, for goodness sake.
But could you imagine a birth parent 5 years ago?
No, definitely not.
Birth parent of the year.
Exactly.
Oh, that doesn't fit, does it?
Well, exactly. But that is the point, isn't it? Back then, and we're only talking 5 years ago as well. We're literally only talking 5 years ago. We were celebrating the fact that children were being adopted.
We did a podcast from outside one, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. But you're celebrating the fact that children have had to be adopted in the first place. That's not something to celebrate. I mean, it's really not, is it?
At the very best, it's a mixed message.
Exactly. Yeah. So but yes, I was pleased not to have been around. And you caused a little bit of a...
I did, but I did go down
discussion.
Did I mention that I got invited to?
I wasn't even going to ask you about that, actually. I'm assuming I was Cheryl Duke, if you're listening.
You can't name Cheryl Duke on it.
Okay. I can call her out on that. I'm assuming it was because I was on holiday that I didn't get the invite.
That's the only reason. I got it on Friday night for Tuesday.
I'm kind of glad I didn't, though, because I feel like we probably would have turned up in the same shirt.
What we like not
blue check shirts, and we would look like the Chuckle Brothers.
Yeah, I do wear blue check shirts.
Yeah, and I do as well. So that probably would have. It was a good thing. In fact, people probably thought you were me. So, you know, it was all good.
Yeah, it was positive.
But yes, you went to number 10, didn't you? You went to number 10 Downing Street.
Yes.
I mean, we won't get into the politics of who's in number 10 and all that sort of stuff right now. But so give us a background to this, please.
Because obviously we've just had a reshuffle. So we've got the new minister, Will Quince. Who, to be frank, I don't know from Adam. And it was a really good meeting from a point of view of lots of lovely people there, and also there was all of the people who were in the You Can Adopt video were there in real life. So that was good, that was fine. And I can't speak to Will Quince, I don't know of him. My first impressions, and I don't want to get political, but I'm going to, is that I don't think I've ever met anyone who looked more like a politician in my entire life.
Okay.
And you look at a different type, you know, but he was, I don't know, he'll be 40, he's slim, sharp suit, immaculately groomed, waved his arms like a politician and spoke in politician's terms. So it felt really on message. It didn't particularly feel genuine, but it was interesting to reflect, well, why is it back into number 10? That someone above him, because this was all planned long before he arrived.
That's what I was just going to say. I mean, this would have been planned way before he came into post. And what is his...
He's the children's minister, isn't he? So Nadeem Zahawi is the...
It's his boss.
Is education.
Right, okay.
Well, I think we chatted about that, but I think that it just reflects that this remains absolutely central to the government's policy, and there's no sort of... The Sarah Jahal was there, which was, and I was like deeply embarrassed after my terrible interview with her. But she was absolutely gracious.
HR are waiting to see about that.
Yeah, they've got a team together. So I just think, again, and it was interesting to talk to people, and just this reflection that actually there is someone higher up the chain who's bothered.
Yeah, and but I guess I'm thinking, like, so you said it was kind of almost scripted, like that's not the words you used, but that's what I'm, you know. So absolutely, his speech was scripted, or what the words he used were scripted.
They went to the acceptable, appropriate, small anecdotal. It was like a speech built by a speech building machine.
Right. Okay. So, but that's a bit of that's to be expected, I guess, because it's only like a couple of weeks since he's gone and sat post.
Of course.
However, if you're going to do events like this, you kind of have to.
You don't, do you?
Oh, I don't know.
Well, maybe I'm more critical because I've perhaps, which is really odd, and it makes me reflect on how incredibly privileged I am.
You are.
Well, no, seriously, I am. I've got a bucket list of places I like to be, and I've been to Downing Street, House, all of those DFE, and I just thought
that's one sad bucket list.
It's a very odd bucket list I've got, but it made me think that. It feels like an impenetrable world. How do you get, because there was people like there was lots of charities represented, and some people that I knew off Twitter that I didn't actually know, which was a bit embarrassing.
Yeah, I know.
There's lots of people I knew, but apparently I knew, but I had no idea who they were.
That is quite embarrassing.
That's maybe my age. But Adoption UK were there. Interestingly, Sue Armstrong-Brown wasn't there, which was I thought was a bit odd.
Right, it's a bit odd.
I don't want to kind of start any gossip that. Have you ever seen her and Nadeem Zahawi in the same room? That sort of. No, that's ridiculous.
She shaves her head.
Yeah, he puts on his wig. No, but I just thought it was interesting. So they Adoption UK were there, and there was Adopt London, so they were there, which I guess.
Yeah, well, they would be.
Yeah.
Sarah
Jahal was there, which obviously she represents the Earraigh now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, they had an event, didn't they? Because it's National Adoption Week.
They had a party.
Whether we agree with it or not, it's another matter. You went, you obviously agree with it. So,
Yeah, but I think generally it was okay. But there was one misstep which you're referring to, the social media misstep.
Yes. Well, I was actually going to ask you about that, because where this is an annual campaign, let's say, okay, National Adoption Week. Where do we see it apart from on social media? Because I'm struggling to think of seeing it in media outlets this year. I know I've been away. However,
no, that's fair.
I can't think that I've
Metro.
seen any. Yeah, right. Okay, so and they're normally on the back of something like this as well. Metro really support,
and they're London centric as well, aren't
exactly. they? So who are we trying to engage with through National Adoption Week these days? Because most of it is on social media. And the You Can Adopt campaign has well,
it's a hashtag, so it has to be social media.
It's social media led, isn't it? Yes,
get you with your fancy marketing course.
Digital marketing, darling. But what I'm trying to say is, like, where else is it? It seems to me just to be a social media thing. So, you know, we're not hearing from everybody on this. We're not hearing from the people who don't use social media. We're not reaching the people that don't use social media, unless I'm wrong in that, you know, there's a massive campaign within one of the national newspapers.
I mean, it used to be on, like, you would be on
GMB this morning, you know.
I mean, I don't watch those programs. No. I didn't see any of that.
Yeah.
Didn't Hugh Thornbury used to rock up to the TV?
Yeah, well, Victoria Derbyshire, that used to be, you know, that was always a kind of outlet for adoption and adoption issues as well.
And some of the big, like the Mirror, but they would run a Child of the Day, which is gruesome, but it is now, but that maybe reflects that they don't want to fall into that trope, which is a good thing. Yeah, well, that is a good thing. But what I'm saying is, if we're going to put it on social media is very limited in how we can discuss these things, as we've seen over the last couple of weeks. That man who's twitching. Yeah, exactly. When he hears a notification. Yeah, I just switched off my notifications. That's fair enough. Because actually, we'll talk about social media in a minute, but they did make a little bit of a boo-boo, didn't they? I think it was probably the most egregious. Well, I think it was probably the worst thing one of the worst things I've seen. It wasn't about the person's story. Absolutely not. It was the banner above that. So the person's story is it's Tegan, and we've had her on the podcast. Really articulate. She's come in twice, hasn't she? She's done a story and she did a Wednesday webcast. Yeah. So really, really articulate, and has got her own story, which is hers to tell. Absolutely fine. Yeah. But the messaging was, hey, prospective adopters, contact is something that you've got to feel comfortable. I can't remember the exact word, and it's been deleted since now. Yeah, it was kind of more like it's something that you can decide on. Yeah, that's exactly what it was. You know, it's not quite as cut and dry as the start. It was not factually correct. That's what I was thinking when I read it. I thought that is not factually correct. That is not the law around adoption. No, know, it's like it's not best practice. No, exactly. Yeah. Sorry, best practice. That's what it was. Yeah. Of the words. So it was completely. Yeah, it was just a little bit of a kind of moment. That was picked up on like within milliseconds by people. Well, yeah, for me the thing, absolutely, it's not right. But I think that the thing I didn't like is it shifted this dynamic to it's about what you want, and I think that's dangerous when we get into that adoption, because even if people get through the process and just think it's about them. Yeah. They're going to come a cropper, because it's not the nature of all children, regardless, is that it's consuming. But our children especially come with those additional bits that take us to other places. You know, which one of them is contact, is writing the monthly, yearly, whatever, not monthly, but yearly contact letter, and that idea that there's this other family out there that may or may not become involved, and I just felt that it just was setting people up to fail. Yeah, I agree. And it was interesting reading some of the comments and some of the kind of from not just people that we follow, some people that we don't follow, etc. People calling people out, so people trying to call other. And this is an interesting thing. Snowball, don't they? Well, they do, and this is my thing with social media at the minute. And we talked about this over the last couple of days, and I said to you, you know, a couple of years ago, we would have talked differently on social media. Yeah. Now we can call it trolling, we can call it whatever we like. Okay, a couple of years ago, there was a lot of adopted parents who felt attacked by one or two. Yeah, because I can't say it was everybody, but one or two people who had been adopted and are now adults, and it kind of made us more wary of what we posted. It made us rethink what we were doing. It made us rethink our parenting, which I think, you know what? Which was the aim of the person who was doing it, or they stated it. Yeah, it was just perhaps the way it was thwarted, or the way it was kind of pushed. Yeah. But because there was a lot of yes, but I think there was an awful lot of overspill into lots of people were genuinely hurt. Yeah. Exactly. Like, not just I feel a bit sad, someone's been mean to me, but genuinely it was frightened. I know people who there was veiled threats. Yeah. about child protection over fairly innocent tweets, and people kind of went, whoa, and disappeared.
Yeah, exactly.
People who were a nice part of our community.
And I'm kind of struggling in this last week because I knew that this would happen again, because it happens every year. It's like that Foreman, performing, Norman, Storman thing, you know, where we all go kind of round in a circle.
Here we are again.
The cycle, and here we are again, because actually it splits the kind of the community. Because in my eyes, the community is adoption is in the middle, and then you've got adopted parents, adoptees, birth families, but we kind of all have this kind of common thing that sits in the middle of that. And we might disagree with each other, might have different opinions on it. You know, we might, I don't know, everything that comes with that. You know, we're entitled to debate it. We're entitled to kind of share our, you know, our own thoughts on it, our own experiences on it. You know, so me as an adopted parent, which I haven't done for a while, because I'm scared to do it, because I feel like I shouldn't be sharing my experience, and I'm talking about my experience. I'm not talking about my children's experience. I'm talking about my experience of being an adopted parent, and I really struggle sometimes now to share that because of what happened a couple of years ago. And what that does for me is it means that I have no place. Should I be doing it anyway? I don't know, but it's hard then when you've had that place to be able to go, actually, do you know what, I feel like this today because this has happened. Not necessarily saying, well, it's this child or it's that child. It could just be a thing that's happened.
It's hard, isn't it? Because you, in a sense, and someone tweeted today about it, and it was an adoptee was talking about the different communities and the different social media, so you get a very different cohort in, like an Insta's like, everything's shiny. That's me. That's if you listen to, if you're on Insta and you listen to this, I'm really sorry, but that's how it seems to me. That's like old man.
That's why we don't use it.
I'm sure Snapchat has one, but I have no idea.
Please no.
It's a mystery.
Snapchat. Is there such a thing?
Let's look at.
Oh my!
Right, we'll report back next podcast. But then you got Facebook, you've got Facebook groups, you've got, and I'm part of some of them, and it's a whole different cohort. And I think the difficulty is that if you've found because you've built real world relationships out of some of those Twitter relationships, and so it's a place that I feel really comfortable navigating. I understand it, and then obviously to have that taken away from you, not by your choice, is. It's like if you were to go to support groups and then someone go, sorry, you can't come anymore. Why? Because we just don't like the cut of your jib, mate. Off you get. So I think that's a shame. And I think, I mean, I can't tell you to come back on. But
no, I know. But then I see adopted adults sparring with each other because their experiences are really different. And then they talk about the fog. They talk about being gaslit. I'm still struggling to understand what that means.
Well, I think it's sort of like... It's the idea that you reflect back to someone, you make someone question their sanity or their position, and you sort of say, oh, you know, it's the idea that I'm trying to think of a good example. I'm not particularly down with the kids, but it's the idea that, you know, you come to me and you say, oh, you've done something that's wrong, and I go, no, that it's not wrong, it's the way you see it, it's because of your problem that you see it as wrong. And so I'm reflecting all back on you, and you go away going, oh right, so him calling me an idiot, it's my problem, it's not his problem, and I should be and
see, that's interesting, without offending any adopted people that are listening, but does that not work both ways? Because
the door swings both ways.
It does, doesn't it? I mean, you know, because if that's the case, I've never used it as a phrase, but that's happened to me many times.
Oh yeah, this is your problem. You know, you should be able to.
I'm fragile. I'm this. I'm that. I'm the next
flaccid,
thing. So
fragile.
Yeah. So that's pushed back. So that does work both ways.
But I mean, in defence, I think that this is my issue in all of this. Is I think that the power dynamic, and we've already said this already, is that
it's always been parents.
We have all of the power, and so that, in some ways, I think that it's our responsibility to soak some of that up and go, you're fine. I'm not going to go, it's not fair, you don't understand my situation. And this idea of exceptionalism where people go, but you know, you're right, apart from me, because my situation's exceptional. And we all do that as humans, don't we? Go like, you know, I park in a good example is like disabled parking, isn't it? You know, everyone who parks in disabled parking who isn't disabled is an absolute fascist and needs to be taken out and flogged. But I'm just nipping in. I'm just nipping in at the shop, and I'm only going to be 2 minutes. You know, and so that exceptionism, I've got a genuine reason. The rest of them, they're all pigs. I say that as someone who drives someone in a blue. So I've got form. I've got genuine form,
and I have met the
you can vouch for it.
So, exactly.
But I think we can do that, can't we? And I think that's the worry for me. And when only on that online stuff is so, like, even when we have conversations on contact, which I know is again another debate that's raging, I can speak quite plainly about what I think should happen, and then I have to constantly come back and look in the mirror and go, what are we doing as a family? What am I doing? Because it's easy for me to kind of go, well, this is what should happen, and this is how it should happen. But the reason it's not happening for us is because I've got very exceptional circumstances that that no one else has. But it's,
that's very true. That is, you're bang on.
And we all do that, don't we? Everyone else should be bloody doing it. You're all bad people. But I'm not doing it because actually, my children are precious.
Because we're different. Exactly. And it doesn't kind of work that way, does it?
It doesn't.
But that is the kind of. But I just find it really interesting because I doom scroll a lot.
A lot of doom scrolling.
I never comment, but I read, and I do read, and this is part of my learning. I learn from reading kind of stuff on social media.
There's a lot to learn.
There is a lot to learn, and I read things from people like Angela Barra, who's in Australia.
A wonderful
because she's got her own issues with adoption
campaigner.
She really does, and I get that. But I support her as an adopted person who has an opinion, who needs to share it, etc. And sometimes she'll tweet about stuff that I go, oh, that's interesting. So forced adoption would be one of the kind of things that she
going back to when she first heard it.
Exactly.
But you haven't just heard about that recently, have you? No. So what's this forced adoption thing?
When did this come into play? We laugh. It's not funny, but if we didn't laugh about things, then we probably can't.
But that's you. You're saying that because you're worried about what people think. Yeah. If people can't work out we're joking, then what the hell are you listening to podcasts for?
But this is what I've read all week on social media, and today, we posted a meme today of something that I said on the podcast.
The clever thing, what you said.
Yeah, I know. Somebody's actually created a meme of what I said. I'll quote. Ebby, award-winning blogger.
Social worker to the stars.
And blogger. Award-winning blog. But even that quote, so if you take that out of context, which somebody has...
Well, we put it out of context as well.
Well, not really, because, so the meme was, just in case you're not on social media or you've just come across this podcast randomly, was about risk assessing contact as
between children and birth parents.
And so we risk assess it happening, but we don't risk assess it not happening. That was the whole point of it, and it wasn't aimed at adopters. It wasn't aimed at anybody else. It wasn't aimed at anybody. It was just saying that is how we do it, and we need to kind of change that.
Yeah.
But if you take that out of context and go, well, I'm a social worker and I do that all the time. Fair play to you if you do that. It wasn't aimed at you then, was it? If you're an adoptive parent who has direct contact and supports direct contact with the birth family,
it's not aimed at you.
It wasn't aimed at you, was it? It was aimed at those that don't do that sort of thing, and that is the point of those kind of quotes.
It's to spark a thought.
If you take it out of context, then we could sit and argue about it all day.
But again, it's the huge thing about social media is, like, if I'm in a bad mood or I wake up at
regular.
I'm not. Generally, I don't get in bad moods. But if I wake up and I think I'm having a day where I'm in a low mood and I'm feeling crap about myself, and I scroll, I read things through that lens. That everything is a criticism and it could be a joke.
I can't look at Twitter before about 10 o'clock.
Before you had your first cigar.
Yeah. And my first cocktail.
Yes, your first mojito. And that's the problem, is it? Because we all are looking through our own lens as well. So I'm looking, I'm having a great time. I'm jolly. I'm the funniest man in the world. So everything I read is funny and jolly.
Yeah.
If I'm feeling crap about myself, everything is a dig.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's exactly how I feel as well, which is why I don't go on there before 10 o'clock. Well, I do go on there, but I just try not to read.
But that's wisdom, isn't it, as well? That's level of self-knowledge, which I think not everyone's got that. And
so I guess what I'm trying to say, though, is...
I don't know how we got to this point.
Yeah, I know. But what I'm trying to say is, like, social media is such a kind of, it can be such a... What's the word I'm looking for? It can literally split.
Yeah.
And we've seen it with everything, like I've seen it with the LGBT community as well, with transsexuals, transsexual people, transgender people. I don't know if that was the right terminology. I don't know enough about it, so therefore I never comment on it because I don't know enough about it.
You'll be on a HR course this afternoon.
I should maybe educate myself a little bit more. But what I'm saying is, I've seen it with that as well. There's a really big LGBT community that do not agree with the T, and then there's the LGBT community who do, but that's split that community as well. I guess my dream, I don't know about you, but my dream would be that all areas of adoption at some level can come together. You're never going to get them all together, of course you're not.
Yeah, I mean, I even thought I would love if I don't particularly, I'm not inclined to, but I'd love to say a few of the people who are struggling, or people who are struggling with our content. That's maybe the best way. Is to say, come on. Maybe that's too much for them, but come on as a panel. Come on, have it, because I'm not particularly frightened of anyone's views, but I just won't tolerate being called a dick. Yeah,
even though you're a dick sometimes.
Admittedly, I am. This may be a wrong phrase, but today I've been accused of using the fascist playbook to get what I want. Fine. Come on.
See, I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, so me neither. And I was wondering, where is the fascist playbook? And maybe someone. When it's like the playbook, like having sports where they go, do this play and do that play. It's a playbook. Oh. It's a book of plays. Oh, okay. It's a book of strategies.
Wow. Okay.
I'm gonna ask for one for Christmas, but the
just so you know, people are slagging.
What did you get for Christmas? The fascist playbook, nefarious laughter. But I'm not particularly worried about that because I think you mentioned what specific. Would it be fair to describe Angela as an activist?
Yeah, I think so.
I think she'd be comfortable with that. I don't want to speak out again, but if you're listening, I'm not pretty sure you won't be listening.
No, we might need to message her to say we've talked about her, because I wouldn't want her thinking that.
No, we're not slander, but I think there's a lot of people I engage with on Twitter that I think that we are aligned on a lot of things, and there's things we might never be aligned on. But that doesn't mean we can't have there's enough of things we want to change together that I'm happy to walk along with them and listen to them and go, I totally get your point.
Yeah, I get that. I totally get that. There's a couple of kind of names that spring to mind. There's Angela, there's Joe,
Amanda Bowman, who's not that present but still anymore, banging that drum.
But there's people. There's a lady in Canada, Jill DeVue. Again, but I still follow her and I comment on some stuff that she posts, and I'm in contact with her. Courtney is another one. Courtney's disappeared a little bit. I think she's from somewhere in the deep, dark southwest of America somewhere. But when she pops back up again, I'll definitely be.
There's none of them. There's none of the cohort that I don't listen to and kind of go, I get your point. I totally get it. And to a point, I maybe agree, maybe don't agree. But we don't have to agree.
No, exactly. Yeah, but we still communicate with each other because we get that and we know each other. Anyway, but I just feel like social media is yet again split as a result of National Adoption Week.
But I think we should keep engaging. I think because actually I think it's a really good bellwether because I think some of the stuff that perhaps was raised by people who have been adopted has now become mainstream. Yeah, exactly. And I think issues around identity. We're doing our conference on the 26th of November. Please sign up. Noborders.org. No. At noborders.org. No. TheNoBorders.org. No. Borders that are not at
noborderstraining.org. Oh my days, seriously, man. Like, how long in July, August, September, October, November?
I had one job.
4 months.
26th, 15 quid, full day, identity, lots of adopted people speaking. Because we realise it's a big deal, and we're not at a point where I think legislatively we're going to change that, but we can change practice.
Exactly, yeah. And if we can just change people who come along to listen and think differently, then that is the whole point of the podcast.
Yes.
And whatever else we do outside of that.
It's a space to talk.
Yeah, and
good stuff.
Is,
shall we call it quits? Because I believe our tea is on, isn't it?
Well, no, I don't think we should. I think we've got something else to talk about first.
Oh, do you really want to go there?
Well, I think we maybe mentioned it and actually put the question out there.
Okay, well,
shall I set the scene?
Yeah.
You've actually got some colour back in your cheeks.
I know. I genuinely can't feel my legs.
So, anybody who watches TV. You may not watch TV. You may not even like the programme, but there's a programme in the UK called Gogglebox.
Oh my God.
There's also an Irish version And we had
goodness.
a lovely dinner last night, didn't we? We went out to a restaurant.
Yeah.
It was lovely. There's 7 of us.
I had to be strip searched before we got in because the Irish rules are slightly different to the UK rules. It was a full-on...
I told you.
It was a full-on pat-down.
For his COVID cert.
Yeah.
So Tris and I walked up with it on our wallet, on our Apple wallet, and Al was held outside by the police. He wasn't really until he could produce his certification.
Produced a specimen.
Anyway, we had a lovely meal, and Mrs. Coates is quite a fan of Gogglebox.
She loves a bit of Gogglebox.
Yeah, and she saw that Gogglebox Ireland was a thing the night before, and she went, we need to watch that. I said, well, we'll go to dinner tomorrow night at 7 o'clock, and then we'll be back in time for Gogglebox
Champion.
Ireland. And how much did we giggle at Gogglebox Ireland?
We put the subtitles on. I laughed till I couldn't feel my legs. I thought my pants would never dry.
I actually thought this is probably the most I've seen you laugh ever in 1 hour.
I was
in the space
bad
of an
with
hour.
myself. Bad.
However, there was a program. There was a program on there
that they were watching.
That they were watching on Gogglebox Ireland, and it was about adult breastfeeding, and obviously. We were watching it going,
I can't talk about this.
Well, we can. We have to. Because actually it could well be something that other people have thought about, discussed, and I have seen it on social media discussed before.
But
I know.
There's some things you can never unsee.
I know. And we will never unsee that. Hence the reason we just need to purge it out of our systems by mentioning it here. And then if anybody does have an opinion on it or thoughts on it, then they can contact us. Yeah, deep breaths. Do you need more Pepsi Max, mate?
I need something stronger.
So this is basically a male and a female who came together in a relationship, and they found that he actually enjoyed her breast milk. Okay, but there was more to the story.
I'm not. You're pausing. Pausing is what
I thought you were going to jump in.
I can't talk about it.
Anyway, essentially, it turns out that he was adopted at a couple of hours. Well, he was placed for adoption at a couple of hours old, and he
was wearing that on his sleeve, wasn't he?
Yeah. See, you didn't want to jump in, and now you're jumping in.
Oh, but he. It's just I thought. I mean, he.
We're talking about a 30-year-old man here. We're not talking about somebody who was 7 when they were adopted.
30 years. But I just thought it was interesting, though, that the whole thing about breast milk is a peculiar thing, but just this. You're just wearing it so blatantly that it's the impact or how he perceived the impact.
Yeah.
Because again, that's his thoughts and feelings on it. He felt that's his response to it.
Yeah, he felt that as a result of being adopted and kind of
needed that
removed or
it
relinquished. I don't know what.
It wasn't sexual.
No, well that's the thing. It wasn't sexual. It wasn't sexual.
That doesn't work in a podcast.
Yeah, no. Yeah, because you have to watch your mouth move. But it wasn't sexual. It was literally something that he enjoyed.
Something else altogether.
And I said last night, that I've seen this discussion before in probably dark Twitter somewhere. I don't know. Or
dark Twitter.
Dark social media.
Dark adoption Twitter.
But it has been seen. I have seen it before. And it kind of got me to thinking, I wonder if it is a thing.
Well, we are hopefully going to speak to Shadim from my foster family. Which is like the Muslim. It's the equivalent of Home for Good, but for Muslims.
How do we get from breastfeeding to?
Well, if you let me finish the conversation. So
he wasn't going to say anything about it.
If I speak out of turn, or if I don't get my facts right, please send a letter to HR. Which is Sue Armstrong Brown at Adoption UK. No, that was a joke. That was a bad joke. Some observant Muslims would believe that because that women cover their heads, but that's only for children under a certain age. But if you've adopted a child, so we'll get Shadim to confirm this. But as my understanding is that it's in the rules. Maybe that's the wrong word, but around that is it's not about age of a child, it's about your relationship to that adult. So it's whether you can marry them or not.
Right.
So if it's someone you can marry, then or potentially could marry, then you keep your head covered.
Right. Okay.
If you adopt a child, then technically you can marry them. So the rear around that is that if a child is breastfed by an adoptive parent, then that adoption under Islamic law is kind of it connects Islamic law. I mean, in English law, it's adoption, but in Islamic law, it kind of smooths over all of that, and so that child then can be raised and so families not having to head cover. So it kind of just to smooth out some of that those faith issues, those cultural issues. Yeah. So you will often, I've seen it on social media. This is maybe what you're referring to, where I believe you can have medical treatment or medical. I'm not sure. It's like two men talking about things they know nothing about. But we're white. We're white men, and so I think that there's a long history of white men talking about. Let's just lean into that. Let's just have it. So I believe that there's you can take whatever hormones medication, and that will produce breast milk.
Oh, okay.
But also, I'm probably like you. I've heard of women who have spontaneously produced breast milk.
Yeah.
Kind of some sort of nurture thing kicks in. And,
wow. So we might have another discussion about this. Is that what you're telling me?
I am sure we will return to it. I'm sure that Shadeen will probably hope to speak about a lot more than that.
Yeah,
but
I'm hoping. Yeah,
tell us about the breast milk.
Yeah, exactly. But I just thought it was a really interesting thing because I've seen it mentioned before, and I did wonder. It's not something that I would ask people to come forward and talk about, obviously.
Well, if they want to
do it anonymously, then that's absolutely fine. You can, because I would be interested to hear if that is a potential thing.
I bet it's
a bonding thing, an attachment thing.
I would imagine it's immeasurably nurturing. I would imagine it's probably one of those things that not a lot of people talk about.
Yeah,
and I would imagine
that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, Tris then talking about the fact that
Tris did it.
Well, no. So what happened was, this is just a little funny story before we finish. But when Tris's nephew was born, he was premature. Very premature, actually.
Yeah.
Like by months premature. You've met him, Jack. He's
strapping lad.
He's now 19, and literally, he's deaf, but that's about as far as his kind of.
He's a lovely young man, isn't he?
He is. But when he was a little baby, and Tris held him for the first time after he came out of hospital, obviously Jack was a little bit hungry, and Tris is not skinny, shall we say? He has.
This has gone to a dark.
What you call moobs.
Moobs.
I think, moobs. And Jack thought the moobs were mummy's boobs.
So and he brought in a storm.
Tried to latch on, and I said, Tris, I remember it so well. I said, Tris, are you lactating or what? Because that child seems to have a fascination with moves.
How did we get to Tris lactating?
Jack was literally pitching around his t-shirt trying to find and latch on, and he kind of Anyway, so. But it's a thing, and I don't think it's a thing that people should be embarrassed about. But I think your reaction, I'm not shaming you. I'm just saying your reaction is kind of probably what people would expect. How people would expect people to react.
Shame me, why don't you?
I would never shame you. I'm just calling you out.
Oh, fair enough.
And you can't be called out much, to be fair, because there's nothing that really phases you normally.
All right,
unless it's projectile vomit.
Oh,
yeah, exactly.
Don't
or breastfeeding, clearly.
No. I mean, we've never. I'm just being silly, I suppose, but I just think that it's. No, it's adults breastfeeding. That's all.
Yeah, adults breastfeeding adults, I guess. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, you don't get children. You're
digging a hole for yourself here, mate.
Stop,
so just
stop.
Stop.
Enough. Leave you with the last thing on my list of things we should talk about. Maybe come back to that.
I think we will have to come back to that.
Adoption is trauma. I hate that phrase.
Oh, really?
Hate it. And I have to literally sit on my hands when I see people say it on social media. But I'm going to come back to it.
Okay. I'll say no more then.
Because
I'll say no more.
Adoption is not trauma.
Interesting.
No, it's not. It's not an opinion. Adoption. You're right.
I can see in your eyes.
We're close. I can grab you, so be careful what you say.
There's pitchforks in your eyes.
Right, so adoption is not trauma.
So before we leave then, because I'm not going to say anything about it, tell me why it's not.
Because a trauma is a response to an event.
Okay.
An adoption is an event.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But adoption is not trauma. Adoption is adversity. How you respond to that adversity is trauma. Right.
Okay.
So that, because if we say adoption is trauma, that means that it kind of totally complicates the whole issue. Because some people, you see this in conversations all the time where people go, "Oh, adoption is kind of okay for me," and people going, "Oh, it's catastrophic. Every fibre of my being is impacted." Literally, the genes, genetics, epigenetics, all of that. And other people going, "Well, on reflection, I'm glad I was adopted when I got to meet my birth family."
Right.
And they would go, "So adoption isn't trauma," and they will go, "Well, adoption is trauma." No, adoption is adversity.
Okay.
And we all respond to adversity differently, don't we?
So is that about language rather than...
Absolutely.
Okay, right.
Absolutely about language. But language matters, because if you say adoption is trauma, it precludes a whole group of people who go, that's not my story.
Okay.
I can't be part of that. If you say adoption is adversity, then you can say to people, well, for example, so you and I both fall down the stairs, we both break our leg, an ambulance comes and picks you up, takes you to hospital, fixes you. I lay at the bottom of the stairs for a week, and then Tris throws me in the back of his car and takes me. We both had exactly the same adversity, but our trauma response is hugely impacted by our circumstances,
right?
Isn't it? So you will be,
okay.
Of course, you had a crappy time,
Yeah.
But you probably on the road.
Yeah, because you pushed me down the stairs.
How did we get to that? But my response may be that I may walk with a limp for the rest of my life. And it will be every day I'll be cursing you that I might not go back to work for 6 months, a year. All of these things that have impacted me. I like running. You don't like running, so it doesn't matter. I can't run anymore. So my entire life is. So it's about circumstances, personality, character. It's about the people around you. It's about the timing of the event. It happened, if it happened when we were 20, we wouldn't have broken our legs. But at the age we're at now,
done a gymnastics flip down the stairs.
But now we've turned to dust with our brittle old bones. So all of those things impact on how the impact of that adversity and whether it becomes on the level of trauma. There's no one denying that adoption is an adverse experience.
Yeah, I get that.
Right,
okay.
That is undeniable. But this, I think, is adoption is trauma. You so immediately, a lot of people read that and go, "Oh, I can't engage with that." And I think that's where we've got to really, really
or the opposite.
Nuance.
They feel, "Oh, that's true."
That's absolutely true. Yeah, and I think no one's saying that you are not traumatized by adoption. But what we're saying is that, because also the experience up to adoption, the genetics, your personality, your character, and also the systemic experience of adoption. We know that, some people, like some of my children, are nowhere aware of any of all of that, meetings and but for you, I know, for example, older children, they're in that whole world of uncertainty, of meetings, of question, all of that. So the system, and then the transition.
Yeah. I think that's an interesting one, but I'm not in any place to comment about it.
Do you know how close I was to tweeting that?
Yeah.
And then I thought, no, honestly, I've got things to do the next year.
Yeah.
But I would.
But I do find that interesting. But of course, who are you and I, to say that?
Oh, I hate that.
But I'm just saying, right? Because if I went out there right now, if I went out this door right now, there's 3 people who've been adopted in this house, and there's 4 actually, and 3 of them, we could ask that question, they probably wouldn't answer it.
Hopefully you could ask all 4 of them.
Well, you could, yeah, but I think I think it would just be a really interesting question to ask, because they were all adopted at different ages for a start.
Totally different experiences,
and I think that when I think back, and this is just my view on it, the same as that's your view on it. No,
I'm right.
Oh, really?
I really feel strongly about this one.
Yeah. Sue Armstrong Brand, adoptionuk.org.uk. She's going to kill us.
Sorry, Sue.
Sorry, Sue. She doesn't listen.
Come on, she has people to listen to. She employs people to listen.
She's got too much on her plate.
Yeah, she goes, bring me the transcript. Am I mentioned?
Fools like us. What I'm trying to say, though, is that they all have different experiences of it, don't they? And
absolutely.
That kind of. But I guess what I'm thinking is, where is the trauma that you mentioned come from? Does it come from up to the adoption placement, being taken, removed, blah blah blah, all that sort of stuff? I get that.
It's the reasons involved with them being removed as well.
Okay. Well, I think there's more conversation on this.
But that isn't. But that's adversity, isn't it?
Yeah. But I think we have to have. More
we maybe need to get someone clever, because it was Amber. No, it was Dr. Marie Kershaw. She said it. She said adoption is a response to an event, and I'd never heard it said in such a succinct way, and I thought, of course it is. So adoption is not trauma. It's a shockingly terrible event. Yeah, it's a catastrophic event. Yeah. It's an adverse event. Yeah. But how any person responds to an event, there's so many strands as to why they may respond, and there's huge common themes. There's huge strands of responses, absolutely, and commonality, and you see that. But I know adults who are really sharp and they go, that's not my experience.
Right.
That isn't my experience. And they've, because of maybe their personality, their character, their experience. Like, think about Pam, who we spoke to. What was her...
yeah, that's interesting.
Because she... but again, we talk about her parents who were very different in that time, who it was kind of their... You know, we see a lot of people, the shame and the hiding and the playing nice. That wasn't Pam's experience. It was all out there. So there's what she needed.
Yeah. Interesting.
Anyway, that's...
the letters will be written in, there'll be tweets, there'll be everything.
I'm happy to have it anymore, because I think I'm sick of feeling like, I should back down. I'm not going to be rude or disrespectful.
No,
I'm
of course.
Not gonna,
well, that's the thing, isn't it?
You know, I can defend mostly everything I say.
Yeah. But therein is today's episode.
Yep, so one last night in Shares. What we're cooking, what we're having for tea tonight,
We're having a proper... Well, because you've been Irish today, you've gone to Cliffs of Moher, you've been... Where? Did you go into...
Ennis.
You went into Ennis?
Yeah. And we looked
fabulous.
at the
You heard all the fiddly-dee music. So
there was a lot of fiddly-dee music.
So we have boiled ham, potatoes and cabbage.
Potatoes?
Mm-hmm. And cabbage. We're going Irish.
We're going all
Irish tonight.
And a Guinness, and then we're going to...
Well, we would if you weren't driving. But
a lot of tractors in Ireland, isn't there?
There is.
Some
of them not very roadworthy either, can I just say?
Yeah, it's like, welcome to Ireland, here's your tractor. But the Avis budget car, thing, which tractor would you like to say? Anyway.
I did wonder. Anyway, been a great chat.
It's been fantastic as always,
and it's been great to be in the same room.
It is always a pleasure in every show, and I'm so excited. Like, we've got so many interesting conversations coming up. Really.
And if you think we deserve just to, be liked by you, then leave us a review. On whatever medium you are listening to. So Spotify, Apple Podcasts,
Google.
Podbean, Google, whatever.
iHeartRadio.
And if you're even feeling more generous, then come to the conference or pay for a ticket for the conference. Right? We don't get paid to do this shizzle. Right? We're putting on a conference.
To pay for the podcast fees and the website fees.
That's the thing. Like, anyway, I don't think people realise that, but
it's turned into a telethon.
But we never really say that, do we? And we do have to pay for this stuff, and
apparently,
it's fine. But we're doing it because we want to do it, not because we're being paid to do it. That's the difference.
Yeah.
But
and there's
15 quid will get you access to everything.
You don't even have to come.
You don't even have to come on the day, because we're going to circulate it afterwards. But if you're interested, it's on Identity. We've got Shania Ives, we've got David Benjamin, we've got Vicky McEwen, we've got Julie Young.
We've got you. And me.
And you.
Yeah. We're doing a turn.
Yeah.
Like that.
We're
like
getting
the
paid
jesters.
£2.50 to come that day.
Jesters.
Yeah, exactly. So there's... And have a look on social media, see what it is all about, what people will be talking about as well. It's, someone actually said, "Oh wow, this program is amazing."
Did they?
Yeah, they did, and I was like, "Oh, okay." And I did that thing, where you boof your hair up and go, "Fabulous, thank you, darling."
And it's about identity, isn't it? I think it's about supporting children and young people and teenagers and young adults with identity.
And I will say, just before we finish, it's interesting because we're doing this conference on identity, and I was at CAMS this week, and the psychologist reminded me of a certain young person's finding his identity right now, and that's part of the reason why we're having a few tricky things.
It's a huge deal.
So identity is a massive thing, and even when we're putting on a conference about it, we can still forget about it. I was kicking myself all the way home.
It's like so blooming obvious.
So
I think it's a real issue for not necessarily young adopters, but you kind of, the focus is always on children, the little children, and then it's like, what does your teenager need?
Exactly, and going into adulthood as well.
Yeah,
exactly. So we're covering the whole
shebang.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
Anyway, twiddly-dee, fiddly-dee. We should have thought of
an Irish version.
Yeah, an Irish version. Well,
I've got one. Yeah. You said, when I say what I'm going to say, you say O'Donnell. Daniel.
O'Donnell.
There you go.
Oh my god! Oh, that was the funniest part of Gogglebox last night as well. Actually, was Danny O'Donnell.
Daniel
O'Donnell. We need muffs with the ANF podcast on. I have a feeling you're going to nip this out and put this on the end. I just know. I can just see your brain working there. Yeah.
I was just thinking how deeply inappropriate you are.
Sometimes, yes, I can be.
It's like living. You're like a human Viz magazine.
I've never
Trist is like a human.
Never been referred to like that. Yes, I know.